Okay, so we're talking about recording contracts and the important aspects of them. Well, first of all, the chances of getting a recording contract with a big record company in this day and age are very, very slim. It was always tough, but if you're sort of waiting for Interscope to sign you, chances are you're going to be waiting a long, long, long time. But let's suppose a record company does come to you. So what do you want to look at? Well, first of all, get a lawyer immediately, no matter how short the record contract is. There are a lot of very, very important rights that are going to be in that contract that you're going to be asked to give up, and you really need somebody who's experienced. And you don't want to get a lawyer who does personal injury work. You want to get a lawyer who specializes in recording contracts, because it's not brain surgery, but there's a lot of language in there. I remember the first time I looked at one of these contracts when I had my first job as a music business lawyer, and I had been a recording artist before that, so I wasn't completely clueless, but there must have been 30 or 40 concepts in that contract that were a complete mystery to me until I learned them. Okay, but that said, so the important things. First question is, who's going to own the master recording? Record company going to own it, or are you going to own it? And the chances are that they're going to want to own it. And the chances are that you're going to have to let them own it, unless you have a lot of bargaining power. Or if they ask for a license, in which case, which is just a term of art meaning that you own it, the chances are it's going to be a long license in terms of years. So that's the first question. The second question is, how many records are they asking for? What a record company likes, for obvious reasons, is to make a small commitment to you. We'll record one album. Or worse yet, we'll record 2 singles or 1 single. And that's the only commitment they're willing to make to you. On the other hand, they're going to ask for a number of options to cause you to record more albums for them. And these days, it's not unusual to see them asking for options for 4 or 5 albums, which they have the right to exercise. You don't have any right whatsoever. So if your first record does well, they're going to want to pick up the option for another album. If your first record doesn't do well, they're going to drop you. And that's just the reality of the music business, is that you're probably going to have to say yes. You're going to want to try to keep the number of options relatively low. They're going to want to keep them as high as possible. So that's the next thing. The next thing after that is, well, how are you going to get paid? Are there any advances? They give you some money, or they give you some money to make a record. And they say, if you can make the record for less than the amount of money we've allocated, then you keep the rest. That's kind of known in the trade as an all-in recording fund, as opposed to an advance and a recording fund. It's tough to get big advances these days. It used to be much easier. I mean, it's tough, obviously, because record sales are down. So record companies don't have as much to spend as they used to. So there are a number of things that number of expenses the record company is going to have the right to get back from your royalties. I mean, fortunately, if they give you an advance and your first record dies, you don't have to write them a check. But it will be carried as a negative balance in your royalty account. Now, the record company, just by industry tradition, gets to recoup, what's called recoup, to take back from your royalties certain expenses. And recording costs are always recoupable. Any cash advances that they give you are always recoupable. The cost of making videos is negotiable, usually 50% recoupable. If they send you out on the road and give you some money because you're losing money, but they think it makes good business sense for them, that's almost always 100% recoupable. If they hire people to help get your songs on the radio, That's typically 50% recoverable.
Peace tones.